Published, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, the 16th of February 2018. Updated, 14:40 Eastern Standard Time, the 16th of February 2018. Peter Crouch is a columnist for SportsMail. What's wrong with a game of cards amongst footballers? If you have read the extracts from Kieran Dyer's new book this week, I'd say your instant answer would be plenty. I can't comment about what happened at Euro 2004 as I wasn't an England player for the tournament in Portugal, but I know a few things about the card schools that were in operation at the World Cups in 2006 and 2010. I should do. I was always in the middle of them. Cards are something I have loved ever since I was a kid. My gran taught me how to play gin rummy and blackjack when I was younger, and cards were always part of the culture at the clubs I played for, particularly on the coach to away games. When you are away for so long you need things to pass the time, and in Germany 12 years ago, I loved the school we had. I was always up to play 3-card brag or shoot pontoon, along with Michael Owen, David James and a few others. Gareth Barry joined in when he was part of the 2010 squad. There was money involved, but it was only ever small amounts of cash. Everything was above board and there were certainly no checks written. There have been plenty of revelations in Kieran Dyer's new book, serialized by SportsMail. Crouch, left, and Michael Owen were part of the England card school at the World Cups. Crouch celebrates scoring for England against Trinidad and Tobago at the 2006 World Cup. It was all light-hearted and never became a distraction. Cards weren't the reason England failed to become world champions. Back then, I believe we had England's best squad in years, probably since the 1966 World Cup. We were unlucky with injuries and in the key moments of games, especially the quarter-final when Portugal knocked us out on penalties. I'd never say cards held us back from achieving something. By the time we got to South Africa 4 years later, the school was dying out. Yes, there were still a few games, but darts seemed to have taken over as the favoured game of the squad, and we never played that for money. I'd be surprised if cards are played at all now at England camps. The tradition is fading away at club level too. We had a great school at Stoke, but that one got stopped at the end of last season, mainly because John Walters and Glenn Whelan, who was in charge of doing all the adding up, were both sold in the summer. A couple of the French boys play a card game called Uno. You need a specially printed deck for this one, and the aim is to be the first to get to 500 points, but there is never any money involved. It's just a harmless distraction. It's also good for the atmosphere. Ouch. Steven Gerrard and Gary Neville look dejected as England lose on penalties to Portugal in the 2006 World Cup quarter-finals. Crouch says although card schools were common amongst the England players, they weren't the cause of their failures at the World Cup. He appreciates Kieran saw a different, worrying side to cards than I did. There were some stories bouncing around when I first made it into the squad in 2005 about what had gone on before, and I couldn't imagine getting involved when the stakes were so high. My experience of cards involves all the lads being together and everyone having a good laugh. It helped build the atmosphere and the bond in the group and was just part of the tradition. Maybe the reason it got silly in Portugal was because people were egging each other on. The team coach is a very different place now. It is quieter now because everyone has their heads buried in their phones or iPads, and many will have earphones on. There is always something to do, whether it is checking newspapers or going on social media, but it kills the buzz. Crouch on the ball for England in the goalless draw with Algeria at the 2010 World Cup owns SAP personalities, and it has become part of modern life. Think of all the times you travel by train. Look around the carriage. Nobody speaks to each other. Everyone is just looking down at little screens rather than engaging. I'm guilty of it at times myself. Kieran obviously raised some important points in his autobiography, and I understand why people will have an opinion of players being out of control when they saw some of the losses that were mentioned. But as far as my own experience goes, I have never had an issue. So long as everyone knows the limits and they are played properly, there is absolutely nothing wrong with a game of cards. And this is how it should be. There was plenty of drama at the end of our game with Brighton last weekend when Charlie Adam and Gis Rodriguez squabbled over who should take a last-minute penalty. I've seen stuff like that happen loads of times, and what you might not know is that there was also a third player wanting to get in on the action. Jerdan Shaqiri fancied his chances of converting and stated his claims forcefully too. A lot of opinion has been passed on the incident, and it was so disappointing that Charlie couldn't score. It was a huge game for us and we were desperate to take 3 points from a team so close to us in the table. Charlie Adam of Stoke. After grabbing the ball from Gs Rodriguez in the Brighton game, Adam is consoled by the Stoke manager Paul Lambert at the end of the draw with Brighton. What I will say, however, is that it is miles better to have three lads wanting to step up in a high-pressure situation than looking around and seeing everyone with their eyes to the ground, not wanting to take responsibility. This, I feel, was a team pulling in the same direction. Nothing has been said about who will take the next penalty we get, but if Charlie is on the pitch, I would certainly back him. And knowing him as I do, he will be backing himself. He's scored plenty of penalties before and will score more in the future. The saddest story of the week came when Ryan Mason announced that he was being forced by injury to retire. Ryan was a young lad coming through the ranks at Tottenham when I was there. He was a lovely footballer and we all knew it would only be a matter of time before he got to play in the Premier League. He eventually got the chance under Mauricio Pochettino. Then he moved to Hull to get regular games and be involved in England squads. He had great ability and always had time on the ball with an excellent range of passing. I fully expected him to go on to the next level. Unfortunately, that can't happen now. The first column I wrote was all about my own personal concerns for the amount of blows I have taken to the head, following on from the documentary Alan Shearer made in regards to football and dementia. Ryan Mason has retired as a result of the head injury suffered in this collision with Gary Cahill. Mason came through the ranks at Tottenham around the time that Crouch was playing. There I've been kicked in the face, knocked out, elbowed and lost teeth, but the injury Ryan suffered during a game at Chelsea 12 months ago was on an altogether different level. Sometimes you can protect yourself when you are anticipating a collision, but Ryan never saw it coming. It must be stressed that there was absolutely no blame attached to Gary Cahill. I have read that he is devastated by Ryan having to retire, but it wasn't his, or anyone else's, fault. These type of accidents can occur at any time on the pitch. Nobody will be more devastated than Ryan, who has seen his promising career end when it should be taking off. It will hurt, but he will have been given the right advice and this is the right decision. There are more important things than playing football. Life has to be right. I wish him all the best. Twitter, I discovered this week, is not a place where irony works. I was apprehensive about going on that site and that is why I only joined a couple of years ago. I don't tweet that much, but on Wednesday, I playfully suggested that Mohamed Salah would score more if he had better composure in the area after he had scored a quite beautiful goal against Porto. Goodness me, judging by the replies I received, it's fair to say a lot thought I was being serious. If Salah didn't panic in front of goal, he'd score more. Peter Crouch, at Peter Crouch, February 14, 2018. Mohamed Salah controls the ball with composure. On his head to round the Porto keeper Jose Sa is left grounded as Liverpool frontman Salah rounds him to score. The Egyptian is left with an empty net to fire into as Liverpool cruise to victory. What a player Salah is. He took 4 touches from 3 yards out and the lack of panic when he slotted Liverpool's second in their 5-0 victory was unreal. Coming the night after Manchester City's thrashing of Bale and Tottenham's draw with Juventus, it capped a fine week for England's clubs. Manchester United and Chelsea take their chances this coming week. It looks good for Premier League teams making up half of the quarter-final draw, and I really believe we could have our first success in the competition since 2012 in May. Barcelona are my choice of winners at this stage, and I think we will get a better glimpse of our capabilities once we have faced them, Real Madrid, or PSG, and Bayern Munich. They continue to set the standards. What I've been up to, trying to avoid grief for Valentine's Day. Abby is friends with a couple of the other players' wives on social media, and she pointed out to me on Wednesday that they had woken up to balloons, flowers and Chanel perfume. She then asked where her present was. I tried to explain that every day being married to me should be viewed as a gift, but she didn't want to listen. It's fair to say that my card didn't go down too well. Who's caught my eye? Moussa Dembélé. Never got the chance to play with Dembélé at Tottenham, but I wish I had. He was masterful against Juventus. The way he glides past people reminds me of Luka Modric. He is a joy to watch just now, controlling the biggest games. Moussa Dembélé controlled the game as Tottenham drew 2-2 with Juventus this week. I'm listening to. I've been a big fan of Rat Boy for a while now. Their new album is imaginatively titled. It's called Scum. The track Laid Back is the best and I highly recommend it. Next up for Emmy, we have no game this weekend, so I might get a couple of extra days off. However, saying that, we have a 5-week-old who currently needs lots of attention, so I'm just debating whether I need to do some extra training.